Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome again to tonight's Halaqah, the last one of January, and one where, inshallah, today's khutbah, for whoever came to the first khutbah with Imam Simi, was talking about islamophobia, and of course, this weekend commemorates the Quebec, the shooting massacre that happened years ago. And so, in light of today's khutbah, where Imam Simi was talking about, the direction of our youth, where the youth are headed today, warnings to parents and our youth, and of course, the topic of Islamophobia, there are a section of verses in Surah Al-Isra, and there are essentially 13 commandments, from verse 22 all the way to 37. And there's 13 commandments that Allah gives to humanity, essentially, and it highlights and signifies the beauty of Islam, the fact that there should not be Islamophobia, that there should not be children who become deviant against their families or their parents, and parents to their children, vice versa. So, inshallah, bismillah. It's again Surah Al-Isra, verses 22 to 37. So if you're at home, watching at home, please feel free to recite the translation, read along the translation as well, if you understand.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا تجعل مع الله إلها آخر فتقعد مذموما مخذولا وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربكم أعلم بما في نفوسكم إن تكونوا صالحين فإنه كان للأوابين غفورا وآت ذا القربى حقه والمسكين وابن السبيل ولا تبذر تبذيرا إن المبذرين كانوا إخوان الشياطين وكان الشيطان لربه كفورا وإما تعرضن عنهم ابتغاء رحمة من ربك ترجوها فقل لهم قولا ميسورا ولا تجعل يدك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط فتقعد ملوما محسورا إن ربك يبسط الرزق لمن يشاء ويقدر إنه كان بعباده خبيرا بصيرا ولا تقتلوا أولادكم خشية إملاق نحن نرزقهم وإياكم إن قتلهم كان خطأ كبيرا ولا تقربوا الزنا إنه كان فاحشة وساء سبيلا ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ومن قتل مظلوما فقد جعلنا لوليه سلطانا فلا يسرف في القتل إنه كان منصورا ولا تقربوا مال اليتيم إلا بالتي إن العهد كان مسؤولا وأوفوا الكيل إذا كلتم وزنوا بالقسطاس المستقيم ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا ولا تقف ما ليس لك به علم إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا ولا تمش في الأرض مرحا إنك لن تخرق الأرض ولن تبلغ الجبال طولا إنك لن تخرق الأرض ولن تبلغ الجبال طولا صدق الله العظيم.
I guess while we're waiting for Brother Asim, Ustad Asim, who's going to lead the halaqah, I guess I can quickly go through the verses that I recited. So as I mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us 13 different commandments, and just listing them one by one very quickly. That's to worship Allah alone, to honor your parents, and this is a big one here, where as parents reach old age, that for the kids to not say oof as like a or like one of those words that signify disrespect to your parents, and to actually make dua for your parents. So again, tying into today's khutbah of the youth and the influence that we're going through today with the fitnas around us. And then another one was to give and don't waste. Another commandment, the fifth commandment, is to spend moderately. Number 6 is to treasure your children. Number 7 is to do not commit adultery. Number 8 is not to kill. Number 9 is to protect orphans' wealth. Number 10 is to honor pledges. Number 11 is to maintain fairness. Number 12 is to be sure of knowledge. And number 13 is to be humble. So, putting all these together, you tell me, if somebody who follows all these commands to the T, would islamophobia really exist? No. Hatred would never exist. Youth would be very disrespectful to their parents, parents respectful to their kids, families would be all together. And so, subhanAllah, again, as Allah shows in the Quran, very simple commandments to follow the way of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah's commandments, and that's it. It leads to a peaceful life, and inshallah, life with no islamophobia, because it should not ever exist. And I will leave at that. Assalamu alaikum.
We're good. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, thank you, Hafiz Nabil. MashaAllah, Takbir. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, today we have with us, as Brother Hafiz Nabil mentioned, this is our last halaqah of January, but more importantly, it's a very important topic because, the halaqah, this weekend is Islamophobia weekend, and it's really important for us to understand the impact of January 29th. January 29th should be a date we shall never forget. If you don't know, as I think Hafiz Nabil was reminding us, and we heard today in the khutbah as well, khutbah al-Jum'ah, that January 29th is the terror attack that took place in the Quebec mosque. They call it the Quebec mosque shooting. How many people heard of the Quebec mosque shooting? Okay, even those online, I hope you have heard about it. And it's very important for us to remember these events because, of course, it makes us sad, and we hope it never happens again. But unfortunately, it has many times. So we want to, highlight. We want to talk about that. We know people are going through a lot of difficulties with Islamophobia. So inshallah, for those that are online or in person who want to talk about it, question or comment, and we can make it out, inshallah. But the other thing we also want to talk about is how many people were here for Imam's khutbah today, which is the first khutbah. Okay, I would say 85% were here, maybe 90%. So alhamdulillah, I'm not sure those who are online how many people were here for the khutbah, but inshallah you can watch it. It's recorded on YouTube. But basically, in a nutshell, our Imam Dr. Hamid Salimi, he was talking about the influence, what we call social media influencers, or just influencers in general. And are they really influencing us, and specifically the youth, in a good way, or is it in a negative way? And what kind of influencing is really happening? Because the reality is that all of us, adults as well, not only children and youth, we're all on social media. And what is the impact of that? So alhamdulillah, I have with us today Brother Rehan. He's one of the students at the Canadian Center for Deen Studies, and he's also a doctoral candidate, research in anthropology, and his research focus is in anthropology of Islam and of other religious higher education and the ilm in general. So it'll be good to get his perspective on this thing as well. And then we want to deep dive, just kind of maybe go through different things like the social media impacts in general. I know Brother Rehan mentioned you're not a big social media user, but you're aware of social media, right? So what can we do? And of course, please, youth, you can chime in as well on what you feel the impact of social media. If you were here for the second khutbah, I was mentioning that every day on your phone you get a report every week. How much did you use your phone? Which app did you use the most? And when you look at the apps, they're always social media apps. I know WhatsApp is a lot. We don't just use it for social media. We talk to people that are not in Canada, which makes it easier. Some of us have family across. Nothing wrong with that. We have to keep in touch with our family and friends. But is it consuming us? Is it taking over us? Think about if this wasn't there, right? What would we do with that other time? Before my parents had to write a letter, and then the next week they would get it, and then wait another letter. That's how people used to communicate. Then they used to talk on the telephone, and even then there would be one phone in the whole village. Then you call, and they would say, this person is calling, and then you would schedule a time, and come at 6 o'clock every day, and every week, and you come. So these are the things that people went through, but in that I still feel there was some barakah in time. So inshallah, let me pose one question for you, Brother Rehan, is what do you feel is the effect of social media in general, particularly specifically what you think on the youth with your knowledge in anthropology and so forth. Let me turn that on for you.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Jazakallah khair for having me here. So before I say anything, I think context matters. I never had social media in my life, so that tells a lot. What an irony to have someone who never had social media in life to speak about influences of social media, right? But the thing is that I have WhatsApp, so it helped me connect with my family back home. In terms of the question and the reality is that social media, we cannot live today without it. We are not living in an utopia that somehow things are going to happen the way we like or the way we considered had it been like this. Sorry, I think we are out of that time frame, and both in terms of time and space, I think we are out of that time frame. But how do we deal with this reality that has taken a toll on the psyche, not only of adults and youngs, but also on someone who might identify themselves as knowledgeable? Even they cannot live with it. But I think the biggest toll has taken on the youth, and let's define what youth is. I consider myself youth. I don't need to tell my age, but I'm pretty young. And I think youth, someone's 5 to 10 or 20, 30. I mean, as long as you call yourself youth, you are youth. The effect of it has been that, let's go back to pandemic. I think sometime in this Halaqah, Friday Halaqah, I did, like some of them mentioned that pandemic did was a bane for the society, but it did prove to be a boon for a couple of reasons. We discovered two things actually during the pandemic. One of the things is that we discovered that our family relations are pretty messed up. We never had experience living with people in our own family, like husband and wife, never spending 24 hours together. So we discovered that we have to first fix our family relationships. Secondly, we came to a realization, a stark realization that we actually have a pretty bad relationship with ourselves. There's something sort of emptiness within ourselves, and we don't know who we are. So we started to find meaning in life, something other than self, and that we started resonating with those people who are also going to the same things online, people who will never meet, who we have never met, but somehow we both, we both resonate on this idea that our life is meaningless. So we connected online, and somehow we started finding fake meaning in that. That's the biggest impact that has happened on the psyche, is that somehow things that are closer to us, we have lost meaning, we have lost our ability to find meaning in that. But things that we will never meet, we have never met, we have no idea if that is like a bot or what, but we have found meaning in that thing that doesn't exist. I think there is no other way to put it in words, is that about the starkness of the situation that we are in, is that somehow things that were real, we literally took ourselves away from it, and things that we don't know if it exists, we actually found meaning in that. I think that says a lot.
Yeah, and with every positive there's negative, with every negative there's positive as well, right? So I think we should not dismiss the positives of social media, right? Like what is happening to our brothers and sisters in Palestine. If it wasn't for social media, we would not know about it, right?
So I think we need to, as I said, we cannot be thinking of living in a time where there is no social media. So let's define what this term is, social media. Media is a very big term. We have a news channel.
Yep.
You have things like medium. This is a medium. If it is conveying you the beauty of Islamic architecture, this is media. This textbook is a media. So anything that conveys you a message is a medium, But the problem is when, medium becomes a message.
Well, sorry, when I mean media, I'm talking about in terms of news, right? In terms of getting information. So before, there was newspaper. That's one of the very first mediums of getting out news or social information. Then there is also medium, then radio came out, right? Or wire, maybe before radio, wire. And then there was also, then from radio came television, and from television came now internet and so forth, and things along the way, right? The reality is that 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, things that were happening before, we didn't get information about it till maybe weeks later. Now, the minute something happens, somebody is going live. Like we're going live here. We're from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, on a Friday night, and someone could be living in Japan and be watching us. So it's so instant. But in the past, that news to Japan would not have traveled maybe for weeks, maybe months, right? So we're consuming so much information at an alarming rate. And so not only, which is good and bad in my opinion, right? One good is we're getting information. Like I said, we know about the injustices that are happening in the world to our fellow brothers and sisters in Islam and our fellow brothers and sisters in humanity, which is good. But we're also absorbing a lot of information which may be overburdening us. Because in the time of the past, even the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they would send a caravan and he would go to Sham. By the time he came back, it's a month. That's how they would process information. But now it's not a month, it's like a microsecond and everywhere. So now you're getting the news of what's happening in Syria, in Yemen, in Palestine, in India, in Kashmir, in in Pakistan, China, Bangladesh, all over the world, all at once, including your own situation, your children, your family. So it's becoming a burden, even though it should be a positive thing. And the question that I ask myself and all of us here, and please those that are online type as well, is how do we balance that, right? Because we need to balance it. As Brother Rehan said, it's a reality. Social media is a reality. Can anybody here tell me they don't use social media? I'm just looking for hands. Okay, mashallah, one person, two people. Great. So you never use WhatsApp even. Because WhatsApp is social media still. Any way you can get communication through. So that's great. But if there are maybe 50 people in this room, 2 out of 50, that's the statistic, right? So that means every one of us, including mashallah, there are younger people in our audience are using social media. In fact, they're better than us at using social media. They teach us how to use it, right? And then before it was WhatsApp, then they brought in the next program, and then this, and now it's TikTok. Tomorrow it's going to be Yin Yang, whatever. If it comes out, I should get a trademark, by the way. If they come up with Yin Yang, right? I was the first guy to say it, right? So, whatever, right? Brother Fiyazi, you're laughing, right? I'm being serious, right? There's something new every month to keep people going, you know? I'm trying to date, you were saying youth, I can't say youth anymore to myself. But when I was a youth, you know, like Facebook was this humongous thing that came out. It's like, wow, Facebook. Then once your parents got on Facebook, you had to leave Facebook, right? Then they brought in Snapchat, and this chat, and that chat, and so for even businesses, you're on LinkedIn or whatever it is, right? You cannot escape social media. And in fact, even businesses, if you want to go to a restaurant, where do you go? Instagram. You have to check out their reel and see what their food looks like, right?
Yep.
But we grew up in a time, or I grew up in a time where you just showed up to the restaurant and inshallah it was good food. So this is the idea. Yes, you want to add something?
No, I just want to clarify that I grew up in a time when email was already there. I mean, my birth year was the birth year of email. So, but somehow...
Hotmail?
Yeah, no, actually Gmail. No. But somehow the thing is that since happened that I never got to. But alhamdulillah, it doesn't mean that I have never seen or... I mean, that's my job as an anthropologist, that I have actually... I kind of witness and see things. And actually right now, just an hour ago, we were sitting back in the lounge and regarding practical tips, how to balance. And I asked a couple of brothers, and one of the brothers was right there. He went through that stage of being addicted to social media, and then today he is not. So he said, delete the app.
Right, and great, but what do you define as addicted?
Addicted in the sense that the most relevant example is that when somebody sends you YouTube shorts, you see one video, then you keep scrolling, and then you see 45
It's an addiction,
yeah, and then after 45 minutes, someone else sends you that, then that sort of addiction. Or another addiction that actually takes on my nerve is that whenever you go somewhere, you're having a juice, lemonade, you take a picture and post to the world, I'm having a lemonade with a hint of anything. I mean, why in the world people want to know you're having a lemonade today? I mean, unless and until you have some serious thought about it.
Well, this is where we go back to the khutbah today. This is where influencers come, right? Because now marketing is saying, okay, I'm a business and I sell, I don't know, Crescent lemonade, okay? Now, when this influencer drinks it, everybody is going to drink it, right? Yes? I mean, this is before social media. When your favorite singer or actor was wearing something, everybody had to go do it. When people watched the new movie, everybody had to get that item. This is not new just to social media, but it's now elevated at a next level. So now, they're like, oh, you see, I'm drinking whatever, so-and-so brand, and then tag the influencer. And the influencer is getting paid, especially if they get, all these people tagging them, right? Then it shows, then it's working. So for an influencer, it's money related. Remember what Imam was talking about? Is the influencer doing it for their own self, or is there some sort of money behind it? right? And some of it is legitimate. Listen, if you're, like let's take Messi. He just won the World Cup. He's probably one of the most famous person in the world right now, right? And the bish that he wore on top, whoever made that bish, that's a business for them. It's marketing. And they will say, can you go on social media, we'll pay you something. There's nothing wrong with that. But to your point, they've taken this to every level. So when the influencer does it, then everybody, oh, come look at this. I'm staying at this hotel in the islands and all this, so that people feel this stuff. So this is where influencers are coming.
And just to add to that, I mean, it's not only about the things that you eat or you travel or you do. I think these things have been historical. People have been taking snapshots, pictures. Like you went to, let's suppose in India, my cousin went to Taj Mahal. He took a picture because there's a memory to it.
Of course.
But when you start doing the things that actually doesn't have any meaning, either to convey or for yourself, that's where the problem comes, because then we start losing, just like 100 years or 20 years ago, photographs used to have meaning. You know, even if it was black and white photograph, it used to have meaning. And today, everyone is a photographer, and you don't know which one to save, which one is not. You are confused whether you should delete your family photograph or the lemonade one that you took. That's a serious problem. When you have to decide between which memory to keep, and when it starts hindering with your priority of which memory to preserve, it's a huge problem.
Well, that leads me to the next question. This is a culture of distraction, mass distraction, right? The whole idea is to distract us, right? That's what it is. Let's be honest. Even if we're watching a YouTube video, Islamic thing, as soon as Brother Rehan said, as soon as the video ends or the short ends, the next one auto plays. And then now, it's talking about this. Then it's going to talk to you about a sale at your favorite store, because it knows what your favorite store is. And then it's going to talk about your favorite restaurant. And then next thing you know, there goes 2 hours. SubhanAllah. Your niyyah was good. Your niyyah was great. You want to come in, you want to watch a lecture, which is a great benefit. Like I said, there's a benefit to everything. But there is also harm in it. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there is benefit in khamar, but the harm outweighs the benefit. And that's why it is forbidden. I'm not here, please don't take me the same, it's not the same, I'm not giving the same metaphor here. But similarly, if something is benefit but the harm is more, then we better be careful. It doesn't just apply to khamar, it applies to this. And if social media will intoxicate us, meaning it's going to take away my time. Remember Allah says, وَالْعَصْرِ. He swears by it. This is no joke. Allah swears. And when we say swear here, kids, we don't mean Allah curses. Swearing is an oath. Allah takes an oath. So therefore it's important. Like when we say, I promise you, in the love of Allah or in the love of my parent, you take a strong oath. So Allah is saying how precious time is. And if we're wasting that time, then it's like a form of intoxication because we're taking away our mindset from time. No one is here, Brother Asim is not making social media haram. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. Okay? Otherwise I have my own problems. But what I'm saying is, it can lead to that if we're not able to control something. Remember when the man came to the Prophet ﷺ? The translation is not don't get angry, it's control your anger. Control your anger. Control your anger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because anger is a state. You're gonna get angry. I swear by Allah, what is happening in Palestine is making me angry. I should be angry. But I need to control my anger, and I need to channel it in a way that is important. By talking to my MPs, by now using social media, by now talking to influencers to post these things and talk about it, then I can leverage some of the good that comes with it, right? Otherwise, goes back to what you said, it's a distraction, right, brother?
Yeah. And at that point, I think there's a scholar called Cornel West south of the border. He said a very interesting statement. I want every one of you to actually think about it and perhaps memorize it. It's culture of mass distraction creates indifference towards things that really matters. Culture of mass distraction creates indifference towards things that really matters. It's deep, like one sentence deep. What happens is that things that really matters, as I said, or should have mattered, like the photograph of your mom or the photograph of lemonade that you had on the weekend.
I'm really wanting a lemonade right now.
Yes, actually.
You keep talking about lemonade.
Because that's my favorite drink. So the thing is that this sort of distraction, and again, we cannot escape distraction because we are living in that time of distraction, time of data, as you said, right? This is the age of data. 21st century is the age of data. And so I think it is good to now go to that aspect of actually understanding what are the practical steps that not only youth but adults, us, actually can deploy in that direction to actually, bring back or not let ourselves desensitize to these distractions, and still be able to, take the benefits of those without rendering it harm completely, but separating ourselves from things that are actually real distraction.
Yeah, so any ideas?
Well, as I said, I was sharing a story, and that's what I do, is that people say, delete the app. Yes, okay, but not a practical solution.
Right.
Unless, if you want to go on detoxification, like itikaf before Ramadan, like digital itikaf, do that, excellent. Put your mobiles away and do that. That's a very good thing. Second, somebody suggested parental control. I have cousins, either 9 years, 7 years old, and I know how easily they can bypass it. They taught me. So, it's someone 9, 10 years old can bypass parental control just to show that, it can be bypassed. I also don't think this is very practical, but also, again, this is not practical reason, is because going back to Imam Slimi's suggestion and his advice about how to raise and build relationship with kids. At a certain age, you treat like a prince and then apprentice. This sort of relation of controlling, where you are actually eyeing on them like a sort of, like a prison, is only going to take your children away from you. Because if children can do that at home, you have public Wi-Fi's everywhere. So let's start building the...
Forget public Wi-Fi, data, 5G. 5G data better than your Wi-Fi at home.
So I think perhaps there's a need for that real relationship, and not only with parents and children, but even the self, is that what is at stake if I let myself dissolve in this barrage of distraction? What is at stake? Yeah, I would love to hear that.
No, you're making good points. I don't think you talk about digital itikaf. I like that. It's a good terminology. I don't know if you made it up or that came from Cornell West, but digital itikaf is good. Just in general, just detoxification of everything. There's always a good time to just take breaks from things you're doing. I was joking with somebody, I think it was in the doctor's office. I had to take my mom to an appointment and we're going, and then I go, and then the receptionist says, make sure you got everything, you got your health card and your wallet. And I said, forget all of that stuff, it's the phone. The phone is the most important thing. If you leave your house and you forget your phone, musiba. If you forget your wallet, you can go on with your day. That's how it has become. Yes? Yes, phone more important than wallet. How, isn't it ajib? Because the phone also has your wallet, I'm saying, but it's the phone. Like we are so used to it. You can call it an addiction or lifestyle or whatever. The day needs the phone. And some of it's for good. My parents have to call me, my children have to call me, somebody's waiting, my husband. Don't get me wrong, there is so many pluses with it. But again, let's look at the minuses, and can we do that stuff, right? Can we detoxify ourselves, right? Alhamdulillah. And this is where, like you were saying, Ramadan is coming. Can we try to minimize ourselves? But Brother Asim, I want to leverage, because when I go, I can get more lectures on YouTube. You can, but you can also get lectures at the masjid. Right? If you really want to watch it, then go on your computer, not on your phone. Because at least when you have a computer, you're not going to be in your bed or something. You're probably going to be in a proper place. It's going to be difficult. You might not fall asleep with it. It might be harder. Whatever. right? I'm not saying don't take advantage of these things, but find ways if they're distracting you. Just like there's many people who really have distractions. They may have, ADHD or other forms of easily being distracted or distraction disorders, right? And those are real. We shouldn't minimize those things or undermine those things. And so in those situations, we find other ways to do it. So something that is difficult for you may be easy for me, and something that is needed for you may not be needed for me. Just like medical advice. You may have to reduce your sugar, I may have to reduce my salt, and so forth. Everybody's different. Figure out what is, and I told you, your phone tells you. If you think you don't know, you know, but if you really don't know, let your phone tell you. What are you spending most of your time on? Okay, Gmail. Can I reduce Gmail? Okay, I'm reducing my time. Okay, it says I spent 3 hours on the Quran. Great. Can I use that 3 hours instead on the Mus'haf? Instead of on the digital? Just to take your eyes off of the phone. Okay? Because when you read the Quran, we're all guilty of it, the messages come. You read one ayah, message. Second ayah, message. And once the message comes from your family member, your mind is gone, you have to answer the message. Because now, did my dad say something important? What happened? But when your phone is away and the Mus'haf is there, it's different. So try that. But of course, it's not easy. So figure out ways. You were going to say something right now.
I think that actually takes us to the second point, the practical steps in terms of, look at who you are hanging out with.
Okay.
So
Yes.
that's very important. Like in today's khutbah, Imam said this saying popular, like "Man jawal qawman 40 yawman sara minhum." That basically means is that whoever whoever accompanies a tribe for 40 days becomes one of them. And that actually basically means is that, and also there's a saying in English, and I think it's falsely attributed to Albert Einstein, is that you are average of who you hang out with. Means if you hang out with people of IQ about 90, 100, 120, then you will probably be somewhere around 100. So it matters who you hang out with. Your friends in school, after school, at masjid, everywhere. I'm not saying masjid is immune to it, but the fact that you are here, who you hang out with, what are the kind of people you are hanging out with, that will actually determine where you are going online. Very much so, and these are actually documented. These are not, I'm not making these up, but these are very much documented. The effects and the positive and negative of your sohbah is documented, both in our tradition, hadith, as well as pretty much all psychological research related to personality developments. So yeah, I think these are some of the things that we could actually do in terms of practicality. I just wanted to say this in terms of there's a phrase in anthropology we call it ontology. Ontology is the thing that what it is. Islamic ontology. Interesting thing is that if we understand what governs Islamic ontology, our life would become much more easier. We often think that desire creates action. First I need to desire and then action.
Yep.
But surprisingly and very deep, Islamic ontology has it that your action creates desire. It means that I will try to pray 5 times a day, even if you don't want to, and you will have the desire to pray. It doesn't go other way around. That
like mind power?
Mind power means that your action actually gives you desire, shapes how you desire or what you desire, the intensity of how you desire. So don't neglect the fact that, right now I'm not feeling to do this. You do it and you will feel it.
Right, and I mean, not the counter to that, but to add to that, I mean, we have to admit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with all these desires. And these, these desires and lusts and whatever you want to call it. And that's normal. Remember when we can talk about our parents, Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam, is that, they had the desire for the forbidden tree. And so they went for it, right? And so this desire exists with us, and many times we like to blame shaitan. And sure, we believe in the waswas of shaitan, and it does exist, we're not denying that. But at the same time, it's the ability to control our desire. And if you look at the school of Ramadan, that is one of the big trainings that come out of that, the boot camp that comes out of Ramadan, is the ability to control our desires, our halal desires. The desire to eat halal, drink halal, have halal, relationships, and the way we speak. All of that is controlled for us, so that if we can control the halal, then we can control the haram. So just we should make sure that we don't think that desires don't exist. And of course, Allah created men and women differently, and males have different desires, and women have different desires, and so forth. But at the same time, as an individual level, we may be inclined to more of a desire. And I agree with Brother Rehan's point here, is that if we put our minds to something and we mentally prepare for that, then yes, we can help navigate better the control of that desire. Alhamdulillah. This is some good stuff. What are any questions or comments? We'd love to hear from you. This is not a khutbah, it's not a one-way conversation.
Yes,
with the chat.
Perhaps any youth can share that there. Like,
please.
You don't have to be particular, just in general. Yeah, you want to?
Share?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, what do you want to say?
Kind of pointing to what you talked about. Early on, I think the pandemic, like you said, was a great start.
So I think the pandemic was a great start for everyone to really reflect and pause and take a look and really hit pause on the dunya and really look at what they've been consuming and what they've been producing. I think there's a big shift going on right now with the advancements in AI and stuff that even Imam was talking about, how people are going to rely on that way more now. And you can use that as a powerful lever towards success in the dunya and akhirah, depending on what your intentions are as well. And I think what I kind of want to bring apart, and what I talked about with Rehan before too as well, is that a lot of people mistake the idea between instant gratification and delayed gratification. What a lot of people are doing, and I speak for myself as well from experience using a lot of different social media apps, is that the moment you get on this app and it becomes a cycle of just repetitiveness, like mindless scrolling, your jaw is dropping, your mouth breathing, and you just continuously scroll.
Adrenaline, you're getting adrenaline from it, dopamine. It's like a fix, right?
Exactly, and it's dopamine, right? And it gets you, and it's really comfortable, it's really nice. But what you're doing at the end of the day is you're just stealing, your future self's happiness, right? So whether that can be, taking a break right now, or setting up your future self for something far better, whatever that desire is, it comes through action, like I also said. But there's just no way that you can do it without actually taking the first step. And I think like one big thing, if the listeners are listening online as well, is do a Google search, simple, dopamine detox, 2 words. And that one thing has changed my life entirely. And it's pretty much taking that idea of just detoxing from all these different social media platforms, and then using that energy to really reflect on what you desire in the world, in the dunya, and then go for it and just chase after it. But yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Dopamine detox. Anyone else?
So just repeat, maybe online, they didn't hear, just summarize in a few words.
Okay, so brother was talking about how his own experience, he realized he went through this process of dopamine detox, which he suggested, encouraged you to Google, and is that how once you actually go off, detox yourself or go off the social media, your body starts to resist. Actually, you can see it, and actually that's the time where you have to actually think of the benefits that you could be using in terms of using those times for bettering your life for this world and akhirah. Am I right, brother?
Yeah. So, these are all valid comments. Thank you, brother, for sharing that. And like we said before, or maybe his point relates to the point of Cornel West saying that it is like a addiction, right? You feel that rush of, oh yeah, I gotta like, right? Or this. And look, there's like I said, there's always khair in things as well. So we should take it with it. Everything should start with the intention. What is my niyyah for using this application? I want to learn some more. Okay, no problem. Then keep that intention, make it clean. And as distractions come, whether through social media or whether you're going to school, there's distractions everywhere. Fitna is everywhere around us, subhanAllah. Even on the subway, like wherever you're gonna go, there's fitna. So as you're navigating, your intention should always be there. We talked about it in that every action is based upon the intention.
There is one more practical step. I heard it a long time ago from a sheikh. Is that, you know, in our tradition, our Prophet ﷺ advises us that do not relay information unless and until you have confirmed its validity. I mean, this is the height of empirical evidence. You know, you can get. We talk about empiricism today in relation to critical thinking. But one of the aspects of critical thinking is that do not relay information unless until you have verified it. This is a hadith, Sahih hadith. So, if you have to share something, take a moment to actually do some basic research. Google is your friend, and 90% of the time, by the time you're researching, your temptation to forward it and to scroll it down will go away.
Yeah.
Because the time you're taking to actually engage your brain.
No, exactly. And they design it like this. Some of the stuff is clickbait, they call it. The headline says, I don't know, $1 billion was found, so you're interested. And you go down and they'll say, oh, it was something about it's not really found, they're looking for it. Like they make you want to do it, and half the time we don't even read the article. It sounds good. Oh, 5,000 people converted to Islam. And then you read on, 20 years ago. Okay. So you see, we're passing, because we didn't have the time to read down it. We just read the headline and we're stuck on it. So, very good point. We should definitely verify the information, especially a lot of stuff that comes through our WhatsApp messages, because it's coming from people who may not have the education level to believe everything. And our elderly community, unfortunately, is not knowing of these things. We remember in the beginning all these scams, send us money. Remember? There used to be that email scam that used to happen when email first came out. I think it still happened. I'm stuck at an island, I'm your friend, please send me $20,000 or whatever, right? These things happen. Now they come on messages. And maybe our elderly community didn't use email, but they all use WhatsApp. Even grandparents in countries that have nothing, they know how to use WhatsApp and everything. So, but with that comes some of the negativity, right? So we have to be careful.
Just an interesting point, right? Day before yesterday, I received an email, a spam email from Anthony Blinken, saying that he had deposited $250,000 in my account. And I actually went to my account to see it, and I confirmed, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Deleted the email.
If it did, then we can get some sadaqah to the masjid, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, another question here. We have Halaqah Jan. He had a good question about how we can use social media to gain Islamic knowledge.
So we talked a lot about social media and the detox and the negative effects of it. But let's face it, social media, there are a lot of positives to it. Especially channels like our own Faith of Life Network. Imam Slimi has put a lot of content out there, different series and playlists. Yaqeen Institute, Sheikh Yasser Qadi, they all have a bunch of series out there. And to be honest, it's almost like an Islamic university, right, at this point. I feel it's overwhelming though. So, like, where do you start kind of thing? What's the right content? What's the wrong content? How do you know you're following the right madhab? And, especially when you get into videos about fiqh issues, fatwas and all that stuff. So now, what social media, the intention of using it for good, perhaps it can now become something that can muddle your, Islamic knowledge as well. So it's not really a question, it's just, I guess, commentary on how do you balance that, and would you find these distracting from from attaining an actual Islamic formal education, right? Whether online or through an actual institute or something like that.
Yeah, very good question for those, in case you didn't hear it online. Hafiz Nabil's question or comment and question was, we're using social media for good as well. We talked about like Islamic knowledge, which is important as well. And let's be honest, social media helped us a lot during the pandemic. Even during the 2 Ramadans that we weren't able to come to the masjid, or we were not, or limited, whatever it was, right? But at the same time, is it too much? right? And is it replacing? I'm sort of paraphrasing your comment there, Nabil. Is it replacing traditional knowledge, right? So look, knowledge is khair, and anything khair, we should not come in the way of that. And everybody has a different dynamic. But I want to ask you a question, Hafiz Nabil. Before the pandemic, how many people on average do you feel used to attend our Friday night halaqah? Before the pandemic, how many people, roughly?
It was a lot more than we have right now.
Would you say at least 10 times?
Yeah, at least, and we had a big in-person attendance as well.
I'm talking about in person.
Yeah, much bigger.
So at least 10 times, maybe more. I think maybe 15 to 20 times more attendance. Like Friday night halaqah was the size of Jummah in some cases.
Yeah.
It was packed.
Oh yeah, we had volunteers making sure the kids weren't, running around too much.
Or going to the park.
The room here was open, right, for children's.
Children, right?
Children's room was actually open.
Now I can count the number of people in this room because everybody is online. And online, you know what happens, you tune in for 20 seconds, you tune out for 2 minutes, and you come back and you go there, and another channel comes, and the ad comes, and this happens, right? So the reality is nothing can ever replace in-person learning. You can ask any one of your either siblings or those who have young children. Kids hated going to online school, right? Yes? He didn't like it at all. For the first time in the history of children, kids were so happy to go back to school when in-person school opened up, right?
That is opposite because I did my first year of PhD in online, and second year when I had to go, I was like, no, I cannot.
No, but you're at a different level. I'm talking about young children, right? Because they're like, they want their friends, they want the gym break, they want all this stuff. Online is boring, right? And it's funny, right? Because nothing can beat human interaction. Now, having said that, there's nothing wrong with having both flavors, and this shouldn't be to guilt anybody who's watching at home. At least you're watching and you're getting benefit. Alhamdulillah. I mean, the Masjid, the Haramain have been going live online for years. Even Faith of Life Network, we had been going online since 2006 when Dr. Simi had his TV show. Yes, 2006. So we've been going online for quite a long time. So, this is the way it has been. But, back to Hafiz Nabil's point, it's not just whether online or whatever it is we, to paraphrase the saying, everyone wants the McDonald's drive-through experience. Why do we say that? Because McDonald's always has promised that you're in their drive-through for no more than X minutes or whatever it is. Right? Sir? Yeah. Right? So we need the internet has to load up, the page is not refreshing enough, our education should be this fast, when is the khutbah going to finish, when is this halaqah right now going to finish, when is this going to happen? It's like, now, we have no patience. And we're not absorbing the information, we're just ready to go. Even the food, it has to be microwavable food, right? We can't wait for that anymore. We can't wait for the bread to rise. We have to go and buy it. So, in a nutshell, I would say, Hafiz Nabil, we should take the advantage of social media to be able to engage in it, because some people cannot, legitimately. Like our elderly community is still able to engage with us, alhamdulillah. But, if we have an opportunity to go somewhere in person, we should. The second thing is, we should belong to a jama'ah. You heard our imam talk about this all the time. Whatever your jama'ah is, that doesn't mean you only attend here, it doesn't matter, but this is your hub, your masjid. And inshallah, you're in a different area, you're going to masjid, no problem. You're traveling, or you have a shift that you like, no problem. But you should have you should belong to a jama'ah, you should have one reference scholar. Just like you have one family doctor. But when you have to go for specialization, you may go see other people or get other opinions, or your own scholar or your own imam may refer you somebody. Alhamdulillah, we're lucky we have a resident scholar. Some people need to refer people to resident scholars and stuff, right? So it all depends on the situation of the masajid. But inshallah, always have a reference. Say, this is my imam, this is my masjid, this is what I follow, this is where I pray Eid, and inshallah, whatever you do, it may be right. Don't judge other people, you do what is in your realm and do the best you can.
Just to add to Brother Nabil's comment about getting knowledge, the positive aspect of social media knowledge. I don't know, do you know that we have something called Open Chat AI? Someone I was talking to last 2 weeks ago here at CCDS, and he showed
And chat GPL.
yes, and how you can actually learn Arabic talking to it. Till you can say, you know, علمني لغة العربية, teach me Arabic, and then it will tell you that okay, this is verb, this is object, and then wherever you were wrong, and it's actually becoming. But when staff said, have your Google Sheikh, he didn't mean Google Sheikh. He meant
Mufti Google.
He meant in person with body and flesh and knowledge with experience.
Yani Mufti Google Sheikh al-Kabir. He's become the grand Mufti, subhanAllah. But yeah, you're right. And Chat GPL, funny thing, because you mentioned Nabil, Sheikh Yasir Qadi, he actually made a funny post where he went into Chat GPL and he typed in, write a khutbah by Dr. Sheikh Yasir Qadi, and the guy wrote it, and even Sheikh Yasir said, looks like I'm going to lose a job because this program is going to write the khutbah for me, right? But I don't know, did you read the feedback? In the comments they said, yeah, but Sheikh, it's missing your actions, it's missing your delivery. Remember, it's not about just reading, it's about the delivery of it, right? That's why when we listen to the Tabi'een, they say that the way that the companions, their forefathers taught them the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ was the way that the Quran was taught. They would sit in a halaqah and they would say the seerah. Because when you sit like that and you see these and you go through live experiences, it makes a big difference, right? So these are very important.
And just to cap it off with the recent statistics by actually, I don't want to name organizations in Canada.
Okay.
Organizations and universities that were actually hailing on virtual learning, they came out with the research saying that it has had huge negative impact on learning, not only for children but also adults. And recent, I think, Ontario EQS score completely plummeted down for grade 5 to 8. And as an educator myself, I work with the students, and I can see the effects of them for 2 years virtual studies.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. The pandemic impacted us. And, you know, I know the schools did the best they could to kind of, you know, everybody did, not just schools, but schools. And of course, yeah, some kids thrived, some kids did not react well. And that even went with Islamic knowledge. Like, even now in our Sunday school, we open in person after a few years, we see this dilemma where we have 8-year-olds who have the knowledge of a 6-year-old because they didn't have the opportunity. And you're going to say, well, why did they learn at home, or why did they learn? They tried, I'm sure. We shouldn't judge anything. That some people cannot learn online. You know, it's difficult. I myself sometimes have difficulty. But you're right. There is a gap that occurred, and this pandemic has impacted this generation, and we should not deny that. And from that came a lot of things. And one of those things was the heavy usage of social media. Why? Because you could not interact with people in the reality sense, so you interacted in the virtual sense. And now they have all these things like meta world and all these virtual worlds. May God protect us, right?
Yeah, so those statistics actually does not go to show the benefit of virtual learning, which there are for many, but it goes on to show that what is missing when you know, from the benefit of in-person learning as well. Another benefit of social media is basically during this pandemic, there was a group of Muslim brothers who has actually established a software to actually wake you up for Fajr. There is an automatic, if you enter your number there, you will receive automatic call during the Fajr time of your location, and then you'll wake up. And it will keep on ringing until you have confirmed that you have prayed.
Oh, mashallah, that's good. Alhamdulillah. So there's always benefit to that. Although some of these alarm noises are very annoying. It's hard that people miss the alarm and stuff. But yeah, like I'll go back to what I said. There is obviously good in these things like social media, and obviously there are some negativities with it. We need to balance like this. This occurs in food as well, right? If you are diabetic, then sugar becomes more, makruh for you than for someone else, right? So you have to balance it, right? And similar. So everything has to happen in the way that works for you in inshallah. Just before we wrap up, just to switch a tiny bit of gears, I remind myself and all of us here, as we mentioned earlier, this Sunday, January 29th, we remember the 6 brothers who were tragically terrorized and killed at the Quebec Islamic Center, and inshallah they're shaheed. We remember them in our prayers, and their families that are impacted, and still other injured brothers that are still part of that infection. Some of them are injured for life. These are very tragic incident that happened, and this is showing us that Islamophobia is real because it didn't stop there. We saw what happened to the brother at IMO, and then the London incident, and every day in the news you see some sister's hijab is pulled over, some family's car. This is happening because it's a Muslim man. Islamophobia is real. So number 1, please wear yourself a green square, especially on January 29th, and for at least a few weeks, like they do on Remembrance Day. You wear a poppy or whatever it may be, or they have ribbon days where they wear a ribbon for some occasion. Wear these things. Because why? It opens a dialogue for people who know or don't know. Second thing I would say is please, if you see these acts of Islamophobia, report them. Report them at minimum to nccm.ca, National Council of Canadian Muslims. Our Imam is part of the advisory board there. Brother Rehan's did some volunteer work with them as well, lately at the RIS conference. So very important to engage with them, and also report it as a crime. Does anybody know what the Peel District School Board announced this week? Brother Rehan, tell them please.
So basically, from what I have read quickly, is that they're the first, I think, school board in entire Canada to actually have this anti-Islamophobia stance in their curriculum. Actually, this is a huge step. Like I think TDSB is still pondering over it, and there are a lot of hurdles. But right here in Mississauga, right, Peel District School Board, like now you will see steps to actually remove contents and ways and pedagogically that are really troubling for Muslims, and I think this is a huge win-win situation right now for Muslims, and I hope across Canada, education boards across Canada can take to the Peel District School District Board's lead, I think.
Yeah, and basically it's called the adoption of the anti-Islamophobia strategy. In fact, if you can go to nccm.ca website, they have a template to write a letter to thank. You know when people do these things, that's another thing that I think we're not doing a good job of. We need to really bombard and really take over people's email inbox by saying thank you. Or somebody does something good, standing forward, someone standing up for the rights of, let's say, the Palestinian people, thank them, especially these influencers or social media or politicians. We have to thank them. When they see 1 million people are thanking them, they won't be shy to do it again. But if 5 people are saying thank you, and 100 people or 1,000 people are saying you're evil, will they do it again? You won't. They want to stand up for us, but we don't say nothing. We're just quiet. We don't say nothing. We have a lot to say when nobody's around and we talk all this game. But when something is happening, I don't understand why we don't say anything. It's so weird. It's like that. 2 things bother me. This, we talk a lot, but when the opportunity comes, we don't say anything. And 2, we park so perfectly at the mall, but the masjid we don't park properly. These 2 things are just mind-blowing. How can we act differently, but when it comes to these important things, why don't we do these things? So we need to get ourselves, we have to stop blaming Shaitan and other people when we ourselves are not doing anything. Do something, including myself. Write letters, talk to people, share. If you want to share these things. Go attend seminars with NCCM, the amazing work that they're doing out there to eradicate Islamophobia, right? And help to pass these laws, including in district school boards and things. These are the same school boards that our children are attending. We want to know what they're saying and doing, yes?
Yeah, I just want to tell, perhaps I think we're nearing the end, right?
Yes.
So I just want to tell this small story. I lived in Montreal, I studied there. So there's a mosque right in downtown Montreal, and above it is a bar, like a music bar, and there's a masjid down. So look at how precarious, you have this effect of Islamophobia and how it actually affects the level of khushu of people who are praying. I was praying, and this is actually last 10 days of Ramadan, very close to my university. So we just go classes and then go to pray there. And so we were praying right the Tarawih, and what happened is that we heard some noise. And I'll tell you later what that noise was. Everyone was literally like, stop their breath. Because after the salah, I asked this old guy who's a muezzin there, he said that I thought somebody came with a gun. And this is after, like, literally last year I'm talking about. And this is not unique. I have asked this question in other messages about how they feel. They always feel that something could happen. So somehow the negative effect of this, of course, this is unfortunate, that yakhshallah, fear of Allah, is somehow changed to fear of Jannah. And that's how actually affects our khushu. That's how bad it is affecting. And guess what? That fall was a dancer falling on the floor. So that's how we can actually relate in our salah that, oh my God, and everybody just stopped, literally.
Yeah, no doubt, Islamophobia everywhere, whether maybe our kids don't, especially our daughters and young girls, they don't want to go to a school because they're afraid. We took away that education, right? We have kids who maybe don't want to engage in this. People don't feel like they're shy to say that I'm Muslim and they want to change. Like, it's difficult. We don't understand these psychological effects, right, that are happening and the decisions that are being taken away. So, inshallah, the least we can do is make dua. I said in the hadith, I said in the khutbah today that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, both Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu and Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, both of them, they reported that when it came to the night of Badr, before the battle of Badr, they said we never saw the Prophet ﷺ engaged in so much dua and so much prayer, asking Allah for help. And this is the Prophet of Allah, the Messenger of Allah, Habibullah, Al-Mustafa. This is his rank is beyond rank. In this month of Rajab, he went to a place where no one could ever go to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And he's praying. And Ali says that night before Badr, everybody was sleeping except for the Prophet ﷺ, and he was up all night praying to Allah, crying to Allah. And then when we all know when it came down to being in the battle, was he in the back burner? No, he was in the forefront. Right? This is the example we need to follow. That we cry to Allah and we know we need Allah's help, but we still go do what we need to do. Right? It's not like the Prophet prayed and he said, guys, don't do anything, sit back. Jibreel alayhi salam is coming with his army. No, he didn't say that. He was there. But he also understood the importance of this battle. He didn't downplay it. So one, let's understand the importance of Islamophobia. Don't downplay it. Two, pray to Allah. And three, be involved, like the Prophet himself is involved, inshallah.
And I just want to say that this is steps that we will take to actually detoxify ourselves from social media, be very vigilant in what we are sharing, and our own interaction and screen time. Know that there will be moments of relapse. But again, as Rumi said, ours is a caravan of hope. Do not despair. Come back again. Jazakumullah khair.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, everyone. Inshallah, we will see you next Friday. Take care. We'll wrap up with the du'as. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. ربي زدنا علما وفهما وعلما. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. اللهم بلغنا رمضان. اللهم بلغنا رمضان. اللهم بلغنا رمضان. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Did it help moving this way inside?
Inshallah, we can do
Yeah.
together.
Okay.